I'm going to grow this company from zero to $100,000 a month using webinars. And I'm going to document everything, all the steps of the process, all the KPIs, everything I'm doing so that you can learn from it as well. So, this company, I've done 6 webinars with them now, and I've recorded them all here. And just to give you an idea, this is a company that sells a coaching product for $7,000. And the key here is that they don't have a large organic audience. They've got a YouTube channel, they've got a TikTok, they've got an Instagram, but it's small. Their audience is small. If you have a large audience and you've got decent engagement, it's very easy to sell anything because you've got people that know, like, and trust you. So it's very easy to sell products. But if your audience is small, you're basically starting from scratch. And so these guys are trying to find a way to sell their coaching program. They're making money because their business, their other business is very profitable. The thing that they're teaching, that they're coaching about is very profitable. So they have money to throw around, but they just don't have a large organic audience yet. They're working on it. They're cranking out content and they're growing slowly, but they don't have a way of really selling their coaching product. And so I sat down with them and we started strategizing. We looked at what other people in the industry were doing. We noticed that other people in this specific industry were running webinars. Now, the difference is there's a bunch of big people in this industry. They're all running basically weekly, sometimes just twice a month webinars. But these guys all have massive organic audiences. And so we had to just figure out a way to do this using just ads. And so after a bunch of iterations, we've kind of nailed it down to somewhat of a repeatable system, a machine where you can put money in and get money out predictably. And so everything that you see here on this KPI sheet is based on ads. And so that's why I'll go through it and I'll explain. So here's the ad spent. The last webinar we did was December 5th, 3,200. We had nearly 300 people sign up. 52 of them attended, which is 18%. Now, let me pause here. If you've ever done webinars, you know an 18% show up rate is really bad. But what you probably don't know is that an 18% show up rate for cold traffic is actually pretty good. I've seen plenty of people running webinars that are doing, like, here's an example. I recorded, this is one of our competitors in the same industry. He's doing webinars at least once a month, and he's gotten as high as a 68% show up rate. But, a typical for him would be like 30%. And this is with warm traffic. So, like I said, it's easier to get warm traffic to show up as compared to cold traffic. So anyway, 52 showed up, which is 18%. That was a $10.90 cost per lead. I don't really want to obsess over cost per leads because if you start optimizing something like this for cost per lead, you end up just attracting, like, let's say I got it down to $3, right? A $3 cost per lead. That sounds great. You're acquiring tons of leads, almost 4 times what I was now. But the problem is the most ideal client for your business might not cost $3. They might cost $300. So your target avatar has a cost. And as long as it's profitable to acquire them, you should just acquire them at whatever their cost is. Driving down the cost per lead really isn't useful for your business because the lower this number goes, the shittier the quality of lead. So I tell business owners not to obsess over the cost per lead. It's something that I record and track just to sort of give myself like a rough idea. It's just a metric to make sure the general health of the ads are doing okay. Like if this number spikes or drops suddenly, then I want to look at it. But otherwise, it's not something I optimize for. All right. What we want to optimize for, if you can only pick one variable to optimize, you want to optimize the ROAS. And so if you look at the ROAS here for all the webinars we've done, we've only really had one failure. This was 0. The rest have all been profitable. And we're sitting at right now average 4.0 ROAS, which is excellent. So if I'm going to optimize anything, it's going to be the ROAS. And the reason that's important is because, again, if my cost per lead spiked to $200, that sounds scary, but as long as the ROAS was still at 4.0, it doesn't matter, right? Okay, so this last webinar, we booked 21 calls. Only 2 of them closed so far. 2 of them closed. So we have typically the sales cycle is about 2 weeks. So we run a webinar and then 2 weeks later we run another one. And by that time, by the time the next one is running, whoever signed up for the first one, they're either going to close or they're not. So we've got another week or so to see if any more close. Probably not, but 2 sales, that puts us at 4.3 ROAS, which is great. That's fine. Now, here's what I want to get into. Because this company is small and their organic audience is small, now that we've found a way to make webinars profitable, this is now like a lead gen source for them. This is a way of growing their audience now, because most of these people, according to my KPIs here, like 85% of them aren't even showing up to the webinars, but we are capturing their email and we are capturing their phone number. So this number, which is now up to a total of some 1,400. So 1,500 people that we've acquired from these webinars so far are now just in the email list. And so in theory, some of them are closing after 2 weeks when they attend the webinar, but a lot of these people, assuming they don't opt out of the list, a lot of them will probably end up converting later on down the road, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months from now. So these KPIs, this ROAS is actually pretty conservative because it doesn't account. I'm manually updating this, so it obviously doesn't account for people that are going to convert 6 months from now. So that's kind of the idea here. Is a lot of these people, they're not converting now, but they will convert later. All right, so you can see the basic overview here. You can see the webinars that I've done. Based on these numbers, I created a projection down here at the bottom. So if my goal is to get to 100K, well, we're sitting at a 4.0 ROAS, so the numbers are pretty easy. If the next webinars follow this same pattern, then all we have to do is put $25,000 into ad spend, and we're going to make 100K out the other side. It's that simple. Now, it's going to be even better than that because these numbers are pretty conservative. The first few webinars we did, the numbers were just not great. I didn't really know what I was doing. I had run webinars before, but I didn't have like a system. These last 2, I have a system. Like I have a whole process that I use for setting up the funnel and how we're engaging with people that register. There's a whole thing behind it, and I'll go over that in other videos. But now we have a system, and so these numbers, if we put $25,000 in, we're expecting kind of a high cost per lead. Again, that number doesn't really matter, but let's say 1,400 show up or register rather, and then conservatively, if we're at an average attendance rate, 16%, then only 242 will actually show up. But this is conservative. I think I can get this number way up. I'm aiming for 25%. That's going to be hard to do with cold traffic, but I think I can do it. I've got some strategies I'm using to try to get these numbers up. And then, let's say 16% show up. Conservatively, if 61 of them book a call, then we'll make $100,000. So that's my strategy for growing to 100K. I made it sound so easy, but back in September when we were doing this, we had just run one webinar at a 6.4 ROAS. And so we were so excited. And then the very next webinar in September, we got 0 sales. We had a 10% attendance rate, fairly high cost per lead, only 6 calls booked. We spent $7,000 and we collected $0 in cash. Imagine how disheartening that would be if you just blew $7,000 on ads. And so we had to go back to the basics and figure out what the fuck did we do wrong here and kind of reinvent our entire strategy and funnel. And that paid off because then in October, the show up rate was terrible, but we still profited. And then November is where things kicked in. So I'm going to make videos about those. But anyway, this is my process. This is how we're getting to 100K. If you have any questions about that, leave them below. Make sure you like the video and make sure you follow me. Thanks for watching.